Welcome to the Evalesco Healthy, Wealthy and Happy podcast. The information provided on and made available through this video and podcast does not constitute as financial product advice. The information is of a general nature only and does not take into account your individual objectives, financial situation or needs. It should not be used, relied upon or treated as a substitute for specific professional advice. We recommend that you obtain your own independent professional advice before making any decisions in relation to your particular requirements or circumstances.
Welcome to the Evalesco Healthy, Wealthy and Happy podcast. My name is Jeff and I'm your host today. I'm very pleased to be joined once again by Evalesco Senior Advisor, Hung Nguyen. Welcome back, Hung.
Thank you. Good to be back.
We're going to be talking about self-managed super funds today, which is a very topical issue, often in the financial press and in mainstream press. But before we get into that, as it is the healthy and happy part of it, you mentioned when you were on previously, Hung, you've got some new focus around your healthy and happy pursuits. Can you give us an update? How's that going and what are you focusing on at the moment?
Yeah, so the last time I was on, I talked about joining a Dragon Boat team. It's been probably about 3 months since then and it's been going great. Regularly hitting out Piedmont Bay on a Wednesday night and Sunday morning, so if you're out there, give us a wave. But yeah, going very well. We had a few races, did well. We've got one coming up in a few weeks' time, so everyone's training for that. So.
Excellent.
Yeah.
Good stuff. I often see people out there, I haven't seen you out there yet, but I often see people out there paddling when I'm going for my trot around the bay, so it's a good sight. So coming back to the topic of the day, self-managed super funds. It's one of the frequently asked questions we get when we start working with clients, or when we've been working with clients for some time, should they get a self-managed super fund? So when clients ask that question, how do you approach the conversation and what do you think are some of the pros and cons?
Yeah, so I think the first one for us, or for a lot of my clients I get, is why they want to start an SMSF in the first place. And going down that path, it tends to lead towards buying a property and then going through that conversation as well. So most clients aren't aware of what that looks like. They've heard some good stories from sitting around the pub with their mates or at a barbecue. That tends to lead to going, hey, I've started an SMSF, I bought a property through it and it's going great. But I think most people aren't aware of limitations or disadvantages or some of the advantages there. So
yeah, so what are some of the pros and cons of property? If property is a key driver, what are some of the pros and cons of property in super?
Yeah, so I think first of all, pros, I think it's great to be able to buy something that I think you like, or getting some more exposure to property. That's always one investment or investment vehicle to get through. I think there's probably a lot more disadvantages though. Getting costs for financing for an investment property through an SMSF tends to be higher. So most people think that it will be the same interest rate that they get personally, but it's not, unfortunately. And also banks tend to be typically a bit more tighter on the SMSF and how much you can borrow. So normally most people are aware they can borrow probably up to 80%. With a SMSF borrowing arrangement, it's typically 65, 70 max. But then there's also limitations on restrictions on getting money out of the SMSF. So for example, if you're in an account-based pension phase, if you're needing to make payments out to each of the members, typically properties are one big asset in that SMSF, and it's hard to take that money out, which I think, Jeff, you've run into a few issues on a few clients recently.
Yeah, that's right. We always say, if you need to get money out, you can't sell off the bathroom to pay your monthly pension or to pay your bills. You've got to sell the whole asset or not. So liquidity is a really key part of trustees' responsibilities, but your investment strategy as well.
Yeah, so normally with that property side of things, I think if that's your key driver on wanting an SMSF, I'd probably take a few steps back and have that conversation. But normally, with all SMSFs or most superannuation strategies, most people just want to get better outcomes or get higher returns from the SMSF or from a superannuation. So normally the easiest things are to look out or review your existing super, see if it's cheap or see if it's doing the right things for you, or consider just moving somewhere else. I think that's probably the easiest, quickest move.
Yeah, I think that self-managed super fund funds have continued to grow, but I think the changes in the superannuation landscape over the last 15 years or or more since I've been working in the space, have seen that there's so many more options available via a retail fund or an industry fund or a more off-the-shelf bespoke type offering, whereas previously they were quite limited in terms of investment options. They were often quite expensive and restrictive in how you could use them. So I think our view is most of what you would like to do in super can probably be obtained via a more standardised fund. You can still have your own bespoke portfolios within there, but you don't need to set up your own self-managed super fund often. You got anything to add in that regard?
Yeah, I think with an SMSF there's also a bit of complexity and the rules and requirements as a trustee to manage and be on top of all the changes or legislation changes and trust deeds and minutes of the SMSF. So yeah. I think that's always a bit of an added layer that most people aren't aware of. And I think there's fines and penalties if you don't meet those standards or aren't aware of what's happening as well. So.
Yeah, I think that's a really key one. A lot of our clients, when they come to talk to us about getting financial advice, they're looking to simplify their lives, looking to remove complexity, and for us to take some of that off them. So often adding a self-managed super fund into the mix might just tilt the dial back towards a little bit more complexity again, which we're often trying to remove for those people because they are time poor and busy building careers or focusing on retirement and enjoying themselves as well.
Yeah, I think I've got a few clients that I'm working through right now that are in that SMSF or winding up stage where it previously was good for them and they were actively engaged, involved, buying their own stocks or a portion of it. But now that they are probably really settling into retirement, hitting the golf course a bit more often, then they're probably wanting to wind it down and simplify their needs as well. So,
I think it comes down to, as with all financial advice, it's what are your specific goals, what's the right strategy to achieve those goals, and there may be the odd client where we would say, well, a self-managed super fund could be a really beneficial strategy for you when they've got a specific investment need or something like that. But if it's just to buy a residential property, then potentially buying in your own name is going to be more cost effective anyway from a tax viewpoint. So we look at things like that. So it's always a case by case, but I think to your point, we've probably helped more clients wind up self-managed super funds over the last few years than we've helped clients set them up.
Yeah, for sure, definitely.
The other thing in regards to property is, getting into the property market, you require a deposit, and that's where some people see the money in super as a pot of money which is potentially accessible to put into property, and that can make sense if it's for the right reason and done in the right way and using the right structure, and all the pros and cons. So, we're very pro property, we're very pro super, we're very pro financial success. So, we're really keen to talk about what are the right options for each of our clients, but we wouldn't be somebody that would come in and say a self-managed super fund is the right solution for everybody. In fact, it's probably not the right solution for most people.
No. Most of the clients we work with, definitely not.
Yeah. In wrapping up, any other tips or thoughts on self-managed super funds and what clients should be thinking about?
No, I think it's just generally being aware of why you are wanting the SMSF in the first place. It's a good starting point. And just being aware of all the pros and cons associated with having an SMSF and really why you're after it. So I think that's probably the final closing point. And as always, speak to a financial advisor before you start going down those steps and considering starting an SMSF. So.
Yep. Couldn't have said it any better. I think that's a great wrap up. Thanks, Hung, for sharing your wisdom.
Thanks, Jeff.
And thank you everybody at home for your ongoing attention and engagement. And we'll sign off there and have a healthy, wealthy and happy day.
Thanks for tuning in to the Evalesco Healthy, Wealthy and Happy podcast. If you would like to learn more about anything you've heard in this episode, please give us a call on 02 9232 6800 or email admin@evalesco.com.au. Make sure to subscribe to our channel for more Evalesco podcast episodes and stay up to date by following us on Instagram and Facebook.